A young boy writes a letter in reply to the one he has received from his father. Let's begin the story. The father says, the son replies to his father by writing this letter saying, "Dear Papa, this is in answer to your letter about my transgression. Yes, my first rank slipped to the second. You advise that I should think before answering the papers? Yes, the operating word think did make me reflect, and these are the results of those reflections. Me being a son, I followed your advice, and I'm going to tell you about those reflections. Father, we have never really been close, and I can't rightly say you have been my friend, philosopher, guide, etc. Yet, I would like you to be aware of my thoughts. As they are very important to me. Father, you are highly educated and you provide very well for the family. But in your departmental store, do you apply Pythagoras theorem? Because when I look at you, I have this question that do you really apply the theorem of Pythagoras or Newton's law of gravity? Just as you have heard of Newton, so the son is mentioning about Newton's law of gravity. It is a very established law of gravity. Newton was once sitting under a tree and the apple fell on his head, and he felt that while the apple was not floating in the air and it fell on the floor, what does it mean? That the earth has gravity. It tries to take down everything, and this is why we are not able to float. So, relating to this question, the son asked his father, do you apply this Newton law of gravity? For that matter, does your doctor friend or your lawyer brother? The son asks this question to his father, that you have a departmental store, but do you apply these theorems? Papa, my grandfather speaks of a carefree and a beautiful childhood, of days spent in plucking mangoes, guavas from the orchards, of picnics on the banks of river, sitting there having to spend time and enjoying the picnics. the river where the men cook mouth-watering food, of playing marbles and gilli danda. So you see that the son sees his grandfather doing all this, but his own father has a different nature. From his talk, it seems studies were an ancillary subject. And living and experiencing the major subject. Because the son feels that he loves to experience about families, and he says that, father, is he fibbing, or is it possible that the world has turned topsy-turvy in just about 70 years? Because the son feels that his father and grandfather has a totally different nature. Because his father keeps telling him to study, to score good marks, to always come first, and whereas his grandfather is a different kind of person. Papa, my grandmother is semi-literate. The meaning of semi-literate is not fully educated. Yet, she's at peace with her pots, pans, her flowers and garden, and her Bhagavad Gita and scriptures. She keeps enjoying these things, and she is at so much of peace. So how is she at peace? The son asks the father. I also want to ask. The son says, my mother, highly qualified, is highly strung, tense and nervous. So do you think literacy makes us restless, afraid and frustrated? Because this is what I feel. My mother keeps telling me to study, to focus every day. Is this going to happen her whole life? But the son feels that the grandparents are so much at peace. So this is her doubt. So I want to ask you, which is more important, wisdom or knowledge? What should our education do for us? Oh Papa, last week my rose plant almost died. Some pests were there on the flower. So I asked my biology teacher what I should do to save it. And she was cross. And she said, ask the guy who keeps gardening things, he will tell you. So the son felt that she is so educated and yet she couldn't explain me. And the gardener, who is not educated but still is ready to explain. Why are they different? The son had a doubt. Why wasn't she explaining her? We learn about pesticides, but we do not know this is the spelling of pesticide. You see different flowers, vegetables in farms. There is certain medicine called pesticide which protects the plants from different insects to die from. So the son says we learn about pesticides, but we do not know how to use them. I want to ask you, Father, it matters not to me why the apple does not fall upwards, nor do I care what Archimedes did. It doesn't make the son excited. So the son says he doesn't care about it. Going further, the son says, what matters to me that my rose plants remain healthy when there is a fuss in my house. The son says, I should know how to do something about it. I should know how to make a desk for myself from my carpenter tools. The kid wants to learn. The son is very eager to learn about using the carpenter tools. Instead, he says he learns about hypotenuse relational square roots, which are very tough terms from mathematics. Son says I can better use my carpenter tools to make desk, chair or other things. Going forward, the son says, Papa, once I asked my grandmother how she got to be so wise. Do you know what she said? She said, by living and experiencing. And she laughed as tough as I had asked something which was so obvious. Are we living, Papa? Are we really living? Or is life bypassing us? Is this what our life is? Reading, studying. But when I see my grandmother, she is normally staying in the house, doing household work. She's at peace. She's so wise. But the son says that the father keeps telling him to study. So this is what he asks. The son says, what I fear is that if I were to meet Newton face to face, I would fail to recognize him. So busy am I learning about him. because I'm learning so much about him that I'll not be able to even recognize him. You know, just like that boy, we know in that award-winning film, he prattles on the hibiscus is red 100 times. But in his book, the picture that you see is the name of the flower, that is hibiscus. And we know in the movie almost says 100 times that hibiscus is red. But in his book, he colors it yellow. Are we missing out on the essence of life? You keep giving rules to me, but end of the day, does it all matter? Can I not live my own life, my own colors? Or do I always have to follow red? Am I losing the meaning of life? This is what the son asks. Anyway, Papa, do you know where I lost the quarter mark that brought about my fall? I will explain you how did I lose that mark. What is filling the blanks? Filling the blanks, it means it's a question where one word is missing. So the sentence was, I was invited to the tea and my teacher was adamant that he was invited for tea. She wasn't agreeing. The teacher said, the sentence has to be this way. Moving forward, son says, a matter of grammar. And Papa, if he says George Bush, you know George Bush, right? The President of America. George Bush is the President of India. It will have to be so. Is it possible? Will you believe it? Further, he asks, if he says the sun rises in the west, so be it. Will you believe it? And if he says that the earth is flat, it will be. It will be, my Papa, it will be. Will you believe it? He says, at least on my answer papers, my first rank is at stake. You see? Still, my dearest Papa, I shall keep your advice in my mind and try not to lose another quarter marks in my coming exams. That the son still chooses to keep the advice of his dearest Papa. As always, yours, ever obedient son, Rahul. also please see that your eyes will not see this anguished plea, my father. This was only to lighten my overburdened heart. It is not at all arteries and muscles, it feels too. You keep telling me to focus, to study, but it's not that. My heart feels too. I have so much burdened heart that I want to make my heart light by sharing all of it. There are things that I want to choose, but you don't let me. Now that the son has shared, he is at peace. And last it says a newspaper article from the Hindu.